Thursday night NFL. Bucs at Panthers. Can only be one thing. We bring in the professor, Brad Allen. Brad, it was a good Thursday for us last Thursday.
It was. I can't remember the game at all, but I vaguely remember we did okay. Is that right? Probably.
Yeah, you had the Packers plus and you had the under 10-3. I love those kind of unders. There we go.
Good stuff. When nothing happens, it's often good for us sometimes.
And it's always good, especially when you're in bed and you're asleep and you get to watch the YouTube highlights in the morning. You know what I noticed too, Brad, with those, when it was about 8:30 and I backed the under as well, 8 minutes and 30 seconds. I said, no way, this is happy days.
Nothing's happened there.
Happy days, right? Let's move on to tonight. So we're kind of looking at this fixture, the Bucs and the Panthers, both coming off losing fixtures last Sunday, and it kind of isn't really one that majorly excites. That being said, if we can find a betting angle for when we're sleeping tonight and to wake up tomorrow morning to a couple of winners, that would be fantastic. Let's have a look at the betting. Current betting, Carolina Panthers, 1.38 on the money line. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 3.6. Industry best price on the Bucs, of course, here at Match for People. If you want to get involved with 1.38, the best of luck to you. 6.5 is the handicap. Obviously, the Panthers minus 6.5, 1.94. And the total is 49.5, 1.97. The under 1.98. The over. Brad, on the main podcast, the whale capper, Drew Dinsick, he likes the under here. And spoiler alert, you also do.
Yeah. I think the side looks to me to be bang on. Yeah, 6.57. That's pretty much where I'd have that. But yes, the under is the play for me. First half under in particular, you get 24 and a half.
24 and a half. I love that number for first half under. Love it.
Yeah. So we did touch a little bit on it yesterday. We'll go through it again quickly. So we'll start with the Panthers. I threw out the stat that his longest completion was 17 yards against the Rams, which is obviously a concern given that he was injured his shoulder last year, couldn't throw downfield for a lot of for the second half of the season. Then he had injury concerns all through the off-season. He talked about kind of refurbing the throwing motion. So to come out and not have kind of the fastball that he used to have, that good deep throwing arm, that is a concern. And you can be sure, if I'm aware of it, the Bucs are aware of it. Well, you can't always be sure with NFL coaches, but they should be.
If they watch enough tape, Brad, they will see that guy, things are not right.
Yeah, definitely. And then he rushed for -2 yards. So again, more injury concerns, given that this was also a scare in the preseason. So I mean, his rushing yards it's always been 40 for the last year every game, and it's down to sort of 22 for this game, which shows you the market is concerned about his injury. But that for some reason doesn't appear to have carried over into the total here. So I mean, the Panthers are at 5.7 yards per attempt against the Rams. That's 25th in the NFL. So I have concerns about the Panthers offense, and then the Bucs obviously were worse than the Panthers. They went for 4.8 yards per attempt Sunday against a San Francisco defense, which is not good. With no one expecting.
It was not bad. I know they only had 2 interceptions last year, and they have that. What did they get? 2 or 3 picks off Jameis the last day?
4, I think.
4.
So I mean, he went for 4.8 yards per attempt, 29th in the league Sunday. And the Niners' weakness is the secondary. Richard Sherman's probably their best player, and he's not very good anymore. He's quite slow now. So the concern, so they weren't good. The concern, again, I mentioned it on the podcast last week, is the Bucs O-line. It looks on paper to be bottom 5 unit, and yet they're running the Bruce Arians scheme, which is the deepest depth of target in the league. It's 7-step drop backs, get receivers out deep down the field, but they can't protect. And like the 49ers, the strength of the Panthers' defense is the front line. That they kind of bolstered that over the off-season as well. They were very strong against the Rams. So I think we've got 2 teams who are going to struggle to move the ball, which is why I've gone for the under. Worth mentioning again that the Bucs had a 39% success rate against, again, this poor Niners defense. So I made this number about 48. And it's kind of ticked up today to 49.5. So yeah, small bet on the under, a single unit type of play.
I think too with the Bucs, Brad, I'd suggest that following James such a terrible performance on Sunday is that they're going to have to run the ball and take the game out of his hands. I mean, it's all well and good saying, Arian saying, I trust my quarterback, but you can't trust him after a performance like that. So it's going to be a lot of clock moving. And like you said, Cam can't really throw the ball down the field, so it's going to be a whole lot of Christian McCaffrey. By the way, how many times does Christian McCaffrey have to carry the ball? He's going to be, like, by week 9, this guy is going to be worn out.
Yeah, I mean, he put on a lot of bulk in the off-season. I'm sure you saw the picture of him looking quite muscular, and he's still a small bloke, so if they're going to give him the ball 400 times, he might break at some point. But yeah, that's a great point about Jameis. It's got to be in your head. You can't throw 4 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, and then come out 4 days later and still be slinging it around without a care in the world. You will have to look after the ball because his team will turn on him if he keeps just away like that. So yeah, more conservatism there as well.
Just before we move on to the player props, so we didn't bring it up on the main podcast this week, but I just want to get your thoughts on early season NFL betting, because I know the guys on the Premier League podcast were discussing this as well, and they were saying that maybe it's kind of best to keep your powder dry for a couple of weeks with the Premier League, but very different situation in the NFL, you're thinking?
Yeah, I am of the belief that the lines get sharper throughout the season. I wrote a piece about it for baseball where I found the second half, the lines are pretty much correct because there's, the models have all the data they need to spit out the correct line. So I think early in the season, we, as I said on yesterday's podcast, we don't know that much. The market got 10 games wrong. It bet 10 teams on Sunday and it got 10 wrong and it got 3 right if you followed the line movement. So the market, it's not up to speed yet. There is value to be had if you go into the matchups on the field, if you go into the coaching tendencies, if you know how good individual players are that have replaced other players. So yeah, that's why I've been, firing bets out. You probably saw Monday night I had about, 15 bets because I think there is value to be had early in the season, and I'm happy to trust my judgment over the market at this stage.
And most of them were winners, Brad.
We did okay again. We've done well on standalone games so far. Not Sunday, but hopefully we can continue that shortly.
Yeah, let's try to continue that tonight. The player props, not so good from either of us last Thursday, but this Thursday. It's a brand new slate. You want to attack the quarterbacks first of all, and no surprise, you are back in the under on both. Let's start with Jameis Winston. This is a high number, 281.5.
It's a very high number for someone who, as we say, is
not that good.
He's going to protect the ball. He's not that good, and he won't be protected by his offensive line. We've kind of gone through it. I've made both these quarterbacks about 20 yards lower based on the projections I'm looking at. So, yeah, I mean, it's just what we covered in the full game.
Yeah,
it's just they're not going to move the ball that efficiently, and if they do move the ball, it's probably going to be focused on the ground.
It's a heck of a high number, especially for Jameis. So we have him at 281.5 here, a matchbook. Now, I'm just looking on the odds checker grade, and they're kind of coming in a lot under that. One sportsbook in particular has him at 274.5. So there's a whole 7 yards of a difference there. So, yeah, it might be worth backing on that one at matchbook. Of course, we're biased in that sense. Cam, 258.5. That's a middling number, Brad. I mean, the only thing I would be worried about there is that he gets a couple of dump-offs to McCaffrey. McCaffrey makes stuff happen. But, I mean, you take that any day of the week, wouldn't you? Like, when the guy can't throw the ball, we're thinking he can't throw it over 20 yards at the moment. It just doesn't look right.
I think there is a chance that is the case, and we have seen historically that the home favourites in these Thursday night games, just demolish them, and the opponent having to travel basically gets blown away early, and then it's just run the ball. So yeah, again, I've made the number about 230 for Cam, without really factoring in the injury, although I would guess that's his numbers from last year would be in that number anyway, so I guess it is factoring it in somewhat. But yeah, I made about 230 and get under 258, so another bet there.
Yeah, and again, with the other sportsbook, they're coming in at 255, 249. So if you're backing the under, you want to be doing with us. If you want to back it with the over, you should be doing with them. You can still back the matchbook.
I'll lay you the over if you want.
There you go. Brad is going to get involved. He'll be posting up plenty of offers on that one. Brad, last player prop you're looking at. Peyton Barber, Tampa Bay running back, under 39.5. They seem to be quite big on Ronald Jones, and he had a couple of bursts there against the 49ers the last day. Is that the kind of logic here, that Jones, who is 38.5, is probably going to win the timeshare battle?
Yeah, well, Jones was by far the most impressive of. They had a three-way running back by committee last week. They pretty much had about a third of the snaps each. And Jones did the most with his. I think he went for about 95 yards.
He just looked that bit more explosive too, didn't he?
Yeah, definitely. And so, as I say, we think they're going to be trailing. They're projected to be trailing. He's going to probably get a third of the snaps. And as I say, the Bucs offensive line should get bullied by the Panthers offensive line. So he's going to need to be quite efficient to get there on the. If we're giving him 8 carries, he's going to need to be very efficient. And I just made the number about 30. So we're getting 10% odd of the value, I think.
Yeah, like it. Peyton Barber strikes me as a guy, if he didn't make it last year as kind of that top running back with him, I don't know if he's going to make it this year. And that Bruce Arians offense, I mean, look, Barrett's like a couple of years of David Johnson. It's just more passing orientated anyway, isn't it? Like, I mean, even the way they block their schemes. Right, let's go to double box here and let's do our best bets tonight, Brad. So, presume on the main game, you're backing the unders.
Yep. Best bet would be first half under, just in case it gets out of hand second half with short week. So first half under 24.5.
Best player prop?
I think Jameis under. I don't think they'll be able to protect him, and I think he's going to be cautious.
That's a huge number, 281. I mean, like he's going to have an all-star game to even just get across that. You stole the first half under from me. That was my best bet.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's grand. I'm not going to come up with something else. I just love that number. When I see 24.5 in a divisional game with 2 quarterbacks who are struggling to get the ball down the field, 24.5, it's a fantastic number. I wouldn't go near it if it was 22.5, 23, but 24.5, and what are we looking at? 1.87 very backable for both of us, Brad.
Yep. I do wonder who's backing first half over 24.5. But I don't know.
Madmen, whoever they are, madmen.
Take our money.
Absolute madmen. Right, that is it from us. We will be back on Monday night. What have we got Monday night, Brad? We have
Jets Browns, isn't it?
Jets Browns.
Yeah.
Jets. What an absolute cracker that will be.
Chance to talk about the Browns some more. My happy place.
First time talking about the Jets this year as well, so I'm happy about that. And also check out the main podcast. There's 59 minutes of absolute gold, in my opinion. Lots of bets. The whale capper sells us a lot more picks than we actually probably thought we were going to do. And we do discuss the Miami Dolphins plus 18.5, plus 19.5, plus 20, whatever you want. That is one of the key talking points. So we will chat to you next Monday.